Tyrus of Fox News scrutinizes a leftist TikTok sensation on Piers Morgan Live. That TikTok sensation is none other than Harry Sisson, a very, let's just say some view him as to be a very obnoxious kind of guy. All right, I'm going to be charitable today. I'm feeling kind. I'm not going to say anything more. This is an old clip, by the way, and I think it's very interesting for us to analyze because, frankly, we can look at it back with the hindsight that we didn't have before. And that makes for a very interesting analysis, in my opinion. So we're going to get right to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, everybody. But first, do me a big favor here. Like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you guys this great content. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
Well, joining me now is the former professional wrestler and Fox News contributor Tyrus and TikTok influencer Harry Sisson. Well, welcome to both of you. Harry, I want to start by playing a little clip of you last time you appeared on my show. Who do you think the two nominees will be in the end, and who will win?
Yeah, it's going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and then Joe Biden's going to win. And Piers, I'd love to chat with you after the election.
You've made a few dollars, Harry, so why don't we have a little wager? $10,000 to a charity of your choice. I say Biden can't possibly win. You think he can?
I personally don't bet on politics. I'm happy to have another bet to do something with charity. We can do something, absolutely no problem.
But you wouldn't put your money where your mouth is on Biden, then?
I don't bet on politics.
Right.
Well, I saved you $10,000 there, Harry, with your refusal to accept the bet, obviously. Welcome to back to Uncensored. I mean, you were completely wrong. Not only did Biden not stay in the race, but he certainly won't be president again. So do you accept you were completely wrong?
Yeah, I think I was going based off of publicly available information. All of the information available was that Joe Biden was staying in. He consistently told reporters he was staying in. He said, I'm the guy. And then he huddled with advisors in Delaware, saw the data, said it wasn't looking good, and made the honorable decision to bow out.
But with respect, why would a young, dynamic guy like you, how old are you?
21.
You're 21, so you're 60 years younger than Joe Biden.
That's right.
Right, it was blatantly obvious to everybody that Biden was done, especially after the debate. Why would you continue to pretend that he wasn't?
Maybe that's why. Yeah, might be money related. And by the way, that is just what we can see. Okay, there are very likely payments that we don't even know about that are completely hidden from the public eye. Just a guess.
Because I look at the record, I'm always of the view that achievements and policy matters more than like this talk we have in the media of, oh, Biden's this, oh, Biden's that. I've met the man as well. I've talked to him. He was fantastic. He was sharp. I had questions.
When was that?
That was in May.
He was sharp?
Yeah.
How sharp?
Very sharp. He answered my questions.
Around that time, he was falling off stages, he was face planting, he was tumbling
face planting. I mean,
tumbling down the steps of Air Force One, falling off bicycles. He was saying all sorts of gobbledygook in statements which the White House had to rewind. So how sharp was he?
I mean, he was great. I gave him questions he didn't have beforehand. He answered them in depth, and we had a conversation after the cameras were turned off. I had no problems then. I had no problems now. I still think Joe Biden is fit to serve. If he were the candidate, I'd still think he's fit to serve.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, Tyrus. Joe Biden is still fit to serve. I mean, the guy I watched last night doing this national address, I'm sorry, I felt it was really sad. It was elder abuse.
I think at this point, we're arguing about the wrong thing. Whether he's fit to serve or not fit to serve, history was made in the sense that the donors basically said no more money.
Right.
And they don't do that because they think, oh, the polling shows you're down this month. So the ugliness of this is that Joe Biden's legacy is going to be affected because of what happened. The policies and stuff that we're running historically didn't ever fit Joe, which people raise their eyebrows to. And then you're seeing all this cover up of how sharp he was, and that's a interesting word because it's used a lot. And I always find when different people all use the same word, it's a talking point. And that's the problem. We need to get away from talking points. I'm glad that he stepped down because I took no joy in criticizing speeches from somebody who was doing the best they could. And he probably has moments where he's brilliant, but that's the ugliness of aging that one day everything's going great.
Yeah.
And it's happened to us all. Like one day, like wrestling, I'm throwing guys around, and one day I'm a step slow. It happens. And you'll have good days and you have bad days. And that's great in any other profession but being the president of the United States and basically the policeman of the world.
You know what?
Yeah, I don't know about Biden sometimes having brilliant moments. let's not forget, even when this guy was young and not senile, he very infamously bragged about being the top of his law school. Turns out it was a bottom-ranked law school, and he was at the bottom of his class. So you got two bottoms right there. Joe Biden graduated something of like, I don't know, I think it was 147 out of 150. He had maybe 2 or 3 people who were dumber than him in that entire law school, and it wasn't even a good law school or a top-tier law school. Yeah. So I don't know about the brilliant moments, but I do agree with the part about how there's just this conversation is kind of stupid. And it does show how much the mainstream media dictates these conversations, okay? Because I remember personally back in 2020 when people like myself were pointing out, hey, Joe Biden's senile, doesn't even know what planet he's on. And we were told, oh, that's just right-wing speculation and disinformation by the media and conspiracy theories and selective editing and, all this other dumb excuses for it. We were just a bunch of liars. Talk about gaslighting. Then, now that finally the left realizes it, oh, yeah, he's cooked. We got to get him out of here. His brain's cooked. Now, it's still a subject of conversation. Why can't we move on? This shouldn't have been a matter of debate. It should have been settled a long time ago. Much like the idea that, say, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, for example. That's another thing that is still somehow debated when it never should have been an argument to start with. Everything is on the left's terms, I swear, and it is just so dumb and exhausting. So, agreed with Tyrus on that point.
What I was struck by Harry last night was he kept talking about, the threat to democracy and the importance of honesty and integrity in public life and so on. But then he said this about passing the torch. Let's listen to this clip.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. It's the best way to unite our nation.
No, I'm sorry, Harry. That was just a blatant lie. He didn't decide it was time to pass the torch only the day before he quit. He was absolutely gung-ho. I'm going to be running. I'm going to be president. I'm going to win 4 more years, blah, 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 blah. Even in the speech last night, he said he thinks he still has it in him to do another term of office. But that's not what happened. What happened was the Democrat grandees, Barack Obama, the Clintons, Chuck Schumer, Hollywood stars like George Clooney penning op-ed pieces in newspapers and so on, they all collaborated with the donors, as Tyrus said, who yanked the money, to torch him. He was torched by his own side. That's what happened, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's a combination of things. I think that there was obviously concern among party elites, you might call them. I don't know if that's the word. But
well, there was a concern. There was a poll came out on Sunday morning saying he was 7 points down in Michigan.
Right.
As Frank Luntz said, one of the 3 crucial swing states. And at that point, bang, the rope was pulled, right?
But it's also it was also his decision. He could have stayed in the race and said, like, I'm the nominee. I got the votes. I won the primary. I'm going to get the delegates. I'm going to be the nominee. But he looked at the data and made the honorable decision, said, no, I'm not going to.
But is it that honorable to do it now? I mean,
It sounds great, but let's be honest. Nancy Pelosi walked in and said, we can do it.
The easy way or the hard way?
The hard way was Article 25.
You know what it was like? Goodfellas, one of my favourite films, right? And I happen to know Joe Pesci very well through golf. So it's the scene where Joe Pesci thinks he's going to be the made man.
Yes.
Right? And the whole build-up, goes thing, and he goes in and they whack him. Right? I think that's what happened with Joe Biden on Sunday.
I think
the whole irony with them threatening Joe Biden with the 25th Amendment, allegedly behind closed doors, is that they actually said that they wanted to do it on Trump. Strangely enough, back when Biden was elected in 2020 himself, and they're saying, let's get Trump out with the 25th Amendment, and now they're saying, let's get Biden out with it. It just shows these people are sick and willing to cling on to power at any cost. It doesn't even matter to them.
To say that it's like, oh, it's not honorable because it's taking place now, I think is a little bit disingenuous.
Well, I only say that because the other 2 Democrat incumbent presidents since World War II who have resigned in election year and decided not to vote did it massively earlier in the process, did it at the start of the year, which gave their replacement the chance to really build proper momentum. By giving Kamala Harris only 4 months, it could end up being, we don't know yet, and she might well turn it around and she might win. So let's put that caveat there. But if she was to lose quite badly, you could look back at it and say that had he pulled out a lot earlier, it would have given her a better chance.
But I think we can both agree that the political circumstances back then with like a Lyndon Johnson was different than now, right? The reason it's happening now...
Well, not really. In his case, it was the Vietnam War had made him very unpopular, so they thought he would lose. Right here, Joe Biden's physical and cognitive state made him increasingly unpopular. And despite all the achievements that people like you queue up to tell us he made, and I'm not disputing some of them are genuine achievements, but his approval rating's at 37%. I keep hearing this week, he's the greatest president of modern times. Why is he so unpopular then? Why is people not just literally, why are there not parades in the streets for the greatest president of all time?
Well,
it's 37% approval.
We know the reason. Historically, the American people will blame the commander-in-chief for things that are often out of their control. So inflation and gas prices. I think anybody who's honest will recognize that Joe Biden obviously didn't cause those things, that those things are global factors. Inflation spiked in Great Britain at the same time.
All the financial problems in his final year, but it was the pandemic.
I agree, and I wouldn't blame him for that.
Democrats, Tyrus, from memory, queued up to blame him.
The first day he got in office and shut down the oil pipe, he hit the green light for Russia and China. He changed the dynamic of the oil. When he who controls the oil controls the way things go. So he made a lot of, but again, I don't believe that these policies were Joe Biden's. I believe that the real issue is that whether it was Kamala Harris or whomever made decisions and the president wasn't unable to. And we saw that. The debate is the reason why he's out. They pulled the money and they said enough. Here's the part. Barack Obama, he is a constitutionalist to the 10th power. Like so he won't endorse. And I don't think his endorsement is based off, he doesn't think she can win, like those reports are. I think he doesn't like the way the process was. I think we're seeing a split.
There are reports today. So just before we came on air,
there's two reports, and you can have the same thought on the same thing. He can say he doesn't think she could win, and he can also endorse her.
Yeah, I think he will endorse. I mean, the idea that Barack Obama is not going to endorse
that speaks volumes.
A black woman
who is
the nominee.
But in defense of him, I think he's looking at, he doesn't like the process. I think he wanted an open debate.
And would that have been better?
I don't know why you're sitting here defending Obama, but I don't think it was for any altruistic motive that he decided not to endorse Kamala Harris. I think, well, he did, by the way, but it took him a couple of days. Notably, he was very quiet for a lot longer than some other people. Joe Biden, for example, endorsed Kamala 30 minutes after he dropped out, practically. Obama took at least 2 days, maybe 3. There's a very simple reason for this. Obama knew Kamala Harris either had a bad chance of winning or didn't think she was going to win at all. And that's why he was sitting there biding his time, thinking about, what am I going to do? Maybe I need to endorse someone else. But I think eventually Obama sat down and realized, well, shit, turns out the Democrat Party wants Kamala Harris to win, so I got to endorse her. We got to make this work, Michelle. And how did that go? Not very well, did it, Barry? Sorry. Better luck next time.
Better for the Democrats, do you think?
I think it would have been better in terms of showing Kamala doing her own thing, because the Republican side, we've made huge mistakes, and I thought it wasn't possible. I thought, after the assassination attempt, after the speech, but literally the VP pick didn't help. Talking about her as a woman, whether she has children or not, moronic and stupid. I don't know why the Republican Party politicians seem to think the answer to getting votes is telling women what and not to do with their body. That's stupid. Like, we had a 40-point lead.
Hang on, you're agreeing with each other.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying right now.
It's not hard. Like, listen, I'm not a tent guy. I'm too big for that shit. You know that. So I call balls and strikes, and we were sitting in a great position, and now no one's going to talk about the fact that Biden's policies weren't his, or investigating who was doing what and what was Jill's role and who's this role. Now we're going to be talking about Trump insulting a woman.
Yeah.
So you literally, all the work, we've got this huge lead. And if we just stuck to policy and deeds and let them call him a felon, because Americans, when they call him that, they respond with what? They send more money.
I agree.
Insult the person.
There's a new campaign.
All right, folks, that's all we have for today. What'd you think? I thought Harry looked like a fool and he was kind of disintegrated, but I will say that was not a great point by Tyrus at the end. The statement he's talking about was when Vance said that Kamala Harris is a childless cat lady. First of all, it's true, and there's nothing wrong with pointing out. Second of all, he said it years before he was VP anyways. I think at least 2 or 3 years. So who even cares? And third of all, he's right. Why should somebody who is childless be helping determine the outcome as a major leader of the United States, or in the case of president, the highest leader? Those people do not have children. They don't have a future stake in this country, at least in theory. And there is no reason why they should have access to the nuclear codes, or let alone any of the other things that can influence our American future. With all that being said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. What do you all think? Comment below, let us know, and we'll see everybody again soon. God bless.